Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another DealerRefresh web chat. Today is Wednesday, March 22nd, 2017. I'm Ryan Gerardi, your host. Along with me is founder and CEO of DealerRefresh, Jeff Kershner, and also with us today, as you know, is Miss Ilana Zur, Head of Business Development with AutoLeadStar, who is joining us to discuss her new white paper, Creating a Personalized Dealership Website, How Smart Targeting Can Personalize Online Shopping to Boost Leads and Sales, which is now available on DealerRefresh and which I will demonstrate how to get later in the show. Ilana, how are you today, and welcome to the show.
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
We are good. Jeff, how's it going?
I'm doing great. It's Wednesday. Hump day.
So
Yes.
for those watching live, today's broadcast is being recorded and it will be made available shortly afterwards. And for those watching the recording, well, you clearly found it and we are glad that you did.
Brian, I'm going to send you a box full of throat lozenges.
It might happen.
Yeah, I think it's well deserved.
All right, here's Ilana's author page. What I want to say is we're committed at DealerRefresh to providing audience members with non-biased information, best practices, and ideas for auto retailers to be the best they can be. And Ilana recently began contributing editorial content on DealerRefresh that many in the community have enjoyed, as we have seen. So I encourage everyone joining us today to check out Ilana's author page on DealerRefresh, which I'm showing right here on my screen. You get an idea of some of the other topics that she has focused on as well. Now, while we're talking with Ilana, feel free to submit any questions through the Zoom chat console. We'll do our best to answer them, and if for some reason we can't address them live today, we can certainly get back to them. So, that being said, Ilana, tell us why a dealer should personalize the content on their website.
Sure. Well, first of all, the automotive industry is known for being the best at building personal relationships and making face-to-face sales. And the shift to digital has made that very difficult. And it's a challenge, and there's a disconnect when you have to personalize an experience when you can't even see the person. And I think everyone in the industry basically understands and knows that personalization on the web is important. But I really want to get into how to do it today and how to kind of close the gap on that disconnect.
So how do you guys, if you could tell us, how do you define personalization at AutoLead?
So a personalization is really showing the best thing possible to the right person at the right time by using smart targeting. And it's tailoring the shopping experience to every single customer to make them feel like they're having the best retail experience, the best shopping experience, the most relevant and personal experience, just like they would in your showroom.
So you're not showing everybody the same thing all the time as much as possible.
Right, not at all. That is not the best way to increase conversion and engage your visitors on your website. Now, especially not with today's consumers.
Okay, so maybe you could give us some examples of what personalization means in this context.
So first of all, let's think about some numbers. 74% of consumers today say that they are frustrated when they can't see relevant content when they're browsing. So that's one thing to think about. And 88% of people say that they start their car shopping experience online. So when you think about that, it's so important to make sure that your website is personalized and creating that customer service and customer feeling right from the beginning, right on the website. So when we talk about personalization, it's more than just flipping out a picture based on a vehicle that someone is looking at. It's about actually using real AI and machine learning on your website to show in real time what is best to that visitor, whether it's content, whether it's video, whether it's an OEM offer. That's all really important. So I would say relevant content is probably the first thing. And then a second thing that's very important when personalizing your website is optimal timing. So, putting up offers on your site and optimizing your site with chat and content and pop-ups is important, but it can't just be the same pop-up at the same time every single time someone comes to your site, because that isn't how you would necessarily do it in your showroom, right? Someone comes in, you have a conversation. Based on their conversation, you're going to respond, say what they're, say what they want. You're not going to interrupt them. That should be the same thing in your digital showroom on your website. So timing is very big. Timing should be, the pop-up should be timed to show it at the right time, not right when they come to the site, and not necessarily upon exit unless that's appropriate. And the last thing is predictive analysis, which is using this machine learning and the technology that's available to actually predict what the best thing to show to that person it would be. So it's not just relevant, but it's also constantly changing. So make sure that you have that analysis on your website and that you can show that in optimal timing.
And this is all done through AI, through machine learning. It's not some Wizard of Oz back there deciding what to pop out.
Right. Yes. AI is kind of like a hot topic in automotive right now, and I think there's a good reason for that. It's really important to have the artificial intelligence and the machine learning that's available on your website so that you can make your website the best experience for today's consumers.
So another thing you talk about in the white paper is this feedback loop. Maybe you can elaborate on that?
Yes. The feedback loop is, you can see the visual if you download the white paper, which hopefully everyone will after this chat, but it's really a constant conversation between the data. So what I mean by that, and I don't want to talk jargon here, is what everyone's basically doing right now is data to delivery, which basically means they have, we all need to be data driven, and that's really important. So they take one piece of data and then they decide what to show. So for example, new visitor, show them this. Or I don't know, this visitor looked at Ford Fusion, show them this. But the feedback loop is it's much more than that. It's real-time AI, so that data is constantly being pushed into different segments of people, and that's pushing to prediction in terms of what the best thing to show that person would be. And then you show it, and then there's conversion, right? Someone actually converts on this pop-up. Someone, feels the personalization and decides, yes, this is a great experience. I want to give my information to this dealership. But then that needs to be put back into the data so that these predictions are constantly being improved and your website is constantly being as personalized as it could be. So if X amount of people are converting on an offer and X amount of people are not, that information and that feedback needs to be given back to the data so that it can constantly be improved in real time. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great.
Of course, the secret sauce is like, how do you do it? And and maybe you could elaborate, like, not to get too deep with it, but maybe an example of some sort.
Sure. Well, the key, and I know it sounds very complicated, it sounds like it's a lot of work, but the key is actually using the technology that can automate this. So in a sense, you wouldn't really have to do anything, and there's not one example. What I can say is you can have some flexibility in how you segment your visitors, or how you tag them in your CRM, so that then your machine learning can actually know, okay, I have all of these tags of people I can work with, right? Service oriented or price sensitive. And once I have those segments, I can then decide what the best thing to show them based on time on site, based on number of visits, based on number of VDPs, based on traffic source, right? Is this a paid traffic, or is this organic, or did this person, come through a Google ad? So all of that can feed into this machine, which is automated, and then decide what the best thing is to show.
That's really important too, because I know there's a lot of buzz going through the industry right now around paid search. And is paid search really yielding the results that everyone thinks it is, or Google sort of insists upon, so there's I like to hear that. That's pretty important to know that you can segment that out. I
Yes, you
think,
can definitely.
again, there's just been some buzz around that, and I've been diving into that myself. It's so easy to get sucked into the whole, what would you call it? Just the Google word, if Google says it is, it is. And especially with paid search. But the reality is what's really happening with those customers that come through the paid search channels. Are they really engaged? Are they really truly converting? Are they, what's their engagement level on the dealership website? So being able to segment that out, I like to hear that. Again, that's a big hole right now, and a big buzz piece that everyone's referring and talking about right now.
So Ilana, you mentioned real time. So put in practical terms, if I'm on a site with your smart targeting and I'm not responding to a personalized offer, will your technology recognize that and then try something else right then and there? Or is it more like I'm lost and maybe the next user will try something different?
So that's a really good question. It depends because it's in real time. It always depends on kind of the situation, but it won't show, like at least for AutoLeadStar, and of course there's so much flexibility within the AI and machine learning technology that's out there. But what we do is we really want to be sensitive to user experience. So if you X out something, maybe this just wasn't a compelling enough offer for you, or it wasn't necessarily the best time to show you something, which of course happens, and you say no thank you. We do want to give you the opportunity to kind of browse more on the site, learn a little bit more about you, and yes, show you something else, right? Because we don't want to show the same pop-up. If you already said no, let's show something different. So yes, show them something different, but we want to always do better. So we want to find out more information, and we want to, let your user experience be as positive as possible. So maybe give you some time and then show you something else, whether that be upon exit or later on in the session, or maybe even if you come back the next day. So that's kind of all up to the brain, but it usually is going to be sensitive to user experience and going to be as personalized as possible.
Okay. So taking all this, what defines success for you guys? So, what does personalization bring? What kind of success is it bringing for your dealers?
So personalization is really about optimizing your site and making it a good retail experience, which can bring a lot of success. One of the things that it can do is increase your marketing ROI, which Jeff spoke, we spoke briefly about bringing traffic in, bringing paid traffic in. Is Google really worth it? Is that really worth my marketing dollars? Well, maybe it's partly the search, but it's also partly on actually optimizing your website. Like that's part of the responsibility. So you brought people to your website, now actually convert them, right? Optimize, personalize your website, show them something interesting. You'll actually see that your marketing dollars will have a higher ROI if you're optimizing your website, right? And you can think of it as your showroom. Again, this is the best metaphor, but you have, let's say you advertise to bring people into your showroom, and then you have no salespeople there. It's like people come, but there's no engagement, there's no interaction. So you want to be able to optimize and convert those visitors that are coming to your site from that advertisement. Another thing is it increases brand loyalty. So, if you're engaging them positively and they're excited about the content and the offers on your site, they're most likely to come back. They're most likely to stay on your site longer. They're most likely to consider your brand when actually buying, which is a really big deal, especially for millennial buyers today. They want, they're looking for the information. They're looking for a positive experience. If they get it, that's probably going to affect their decision more than even price. And you can edge out competition. Sorry.
What that makes me think about is your technology can probably see the frequency of the same visitor. And maybe you know this, and maybe you don't, but what kind of data are you seeing as far as frequency of visits from the same person?
So it really depends. We actually have algorithmic lead scoring. So when someone converts, if they've been to the site a lot, and especially if they've been to a certain VDP a lot, we see all of that and generate a lead score. So that's something that we take into consideration for how serious is this buyer or how close is this lead to buying. So we can see all of that. And it really depends on it's case by case. Like if a dealership has really good traffic, really quality traffic, there's usually a good amount of returning visitors there, and a good amount of traffic. If it's not great traffic and they're buying traffic and they don't really know what they're doing necessarily, then it's a lot of new visitors that bounce quicker. So we always like to see returning visitors.
Yeah.
What do you see? What are some of the when you speak about bounce? Because it's always a term that sort of gets thrown around, and everyone's got I wouldn't say a different definition, but sometimes a high bounce rate isn't necessarily a bad thing. It can always mean that they found what they want, and they made a phone call, and they're out. So that's not a bad thing, right? What are some of the things that maybe you're seeing through your data that would cause a bounce rate that would be a legit bad bounce rate?
Well, I think having a high bounce rate isn't necessarily good, because let's say there is that percentage that comes, finds the phone number and leaves, but that's probably not a huge percentage. So you always want to make sure your bounce rate is somewhat low, because you also want your average pages per session to be high. And I think that what we see is what's more troubling, I would say, is the amount of new visitors. Like if you have 90% new visitors, that means that people aren't coming back to your site. That means they're not engaged. That means they're not excited by your brand. And especially when we talk about the 88% of people that go to start their online shopping, start their car buying shopping, online. I think it's important, and there's also a Harvard Business Study that talks about how the average person spends almost 11 hours researching for car buying online. So if you put those two numbers together, they should be coming back to your site.
Yeah, I absolutely. It was a couple years ago, but that was one of the big stats that we were looking at, was return visits and the importance of that.
Yeah, I mean, of course you want new visitors as well. You want those people to come back. Maybe next month they'll come back to your site again, and then they'll be a returning visitor. But you want a healthy balance between the two, and you definitely don't want a high percentage of only new visitors.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, one of the things we're committed to doing here at DealerRefresh is taking a different approach to these types of webinars. So, you had a chance here to hear from Ilana what personalization is and how it can benefit your dealership. There is a white paper out there on the AutoLeadStar website. You can get there easily going to AutoLeadStar.com/whitepaper, or, which we'd love, if you want to text real quick on your phone, just text the keyword AutoLeadStar to 555-888. Then we'll send you a link right away to that page, and you can do it right there on your phone and get the white paper. So Ilana, thank you. What I want to do is show people real quick how they can get the white paper. I'm sorry, I just did that, but where it is on the DealerRefresh site too. Okay, here we go.
Forgive you.
Now we got it. What I want to show you folks, I showed you Ilana's author page, the sign up page where you signed up for today's webinar. Once the video is ready, we'll have that here. We'll also get a blog post out with the recording of the video as well. You will probably see in an upcoming newsletter, you'll see us promoting this white paper, and that's usually promoted in this blue box here, and sometimes as a sponsored link, and that's going to bring you over to the advertorial here. And if you're on the advertorial, pretty much everything we just talked about is here, and you can click through to the advertorial. And if you are clicking on these links in the email, you will then get a follow-up email the next day sent to you automatically with a link to that white paper. But most of you live hopefully probably have that by now. So if you're not subscribed to Dealer Refresh, you can go right here to our newsletter sign up page and sign up there, and then you'll start getting our newsletters. We typically send about 1 to 3 emails a week. It just depends on your preferences there. So that being said, our next web event is scheduled for Wednesday, April 19th. It's going to be with Aaron Gomez. He is the wholesale director at Epic Auto Sales. We'll be discussing the benefits of buying used cars from private sellers. So please be on the lookout for that information. Thanks again for joining us today, folks. And Ilana, it was great having you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for having me.
And
I love contributing to Dealer Refresh. I really appreciate all of its contributors and the forum. So keep up the good work.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
we love your energy, and we're excited for this kind of new webinar thing here. So folks, I'm going to shut down the webinar, and feel free to reach out if you have any questions. So signing off. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.